My name is Christina Treadway, and I was 19 years old when my father told me to pack my things and leave the house like I was something shameful he couldn't bear to look at anymore. At 19, I still believed in clean lines and clear futures. I was a senior in high school with grades good enough for scholarships, acceptance letters waiting to be opened, and a dream of becoming an architect. I loved the idea that broken things could be studied, understood, and rebuilt stronger if you didn't ignore the cracks. My parents, Daniel and Margaret Treadway, used to tell people how proud they were of me, or at least I thought they were. Everything collapsed on a Tuesday night. My cousin Clara sat on our living room couch, her knees pulled tight to her chest, hands shaking so badly my mother had to hold them. Tears streamed down her face, soaking into my mother's sweater. The TV was on, muted, flickering like it didn't know our world was ending. Then Clara said the words that erased my life. Christina got me pregnant. I laughed, sharp and startled, because my brain rejected the sentence before it could make sense of it. Clara, stop, I said, stepping forward. That's not true. You know it's not. She didn't even look at me. She buried her face deeper into my mother's arms and sobbed louder, like volume itself was proof. My mother wrapped her up, rocking her, whispering comfort I had never heard directed at me with such urgency. My father didn't shout at first. He stared at me, jaw clenched, eyes darkening as if a door inside him had slammed shut. Pack your things, he said quietly. You're not staying here. The room went silent. Dad, please. I dropped to my knees without realizing it. I didn't do this, I swear, just wait. When the baby's born, we can do a DNA test. I'll prove it. He turned away. My mother spun toward me, her face twisted with betrayal. How could you do something so disgusting to your own cousin? The word disgusting lodged in my chest and stayed there. Behind me, I felt the shift before I saw it, the hesitation, the retreat. My boyfriend Ryan stood near the doorway, arms crossed, like he was guarding himself from me. His eyes weren't angry. They were repulsed. I can't believe you, he said quietly. I don't even know who you are. He left before sunrise. By lunchtime the next day, everyone knew. Whispers followed me down hallways like shadows. Predator, liar, sick. Each word cut deeper than the last. Teachers avoided my eyes. Friends stopped answering texts. I didn't make it to graduation. I didn't open my acceptance letters. I left town with one duffel bag, a cracked phone screen, and my father's voice ringing in my ears, calling me a disgrace. I was 19. And that was the night I stopped being their daughter. I didn't leave town with a plan. I left with momentum. 4 states away, the highways blurred together as if distance itself could scrub me clean. I stayed in cheap motels with buzzing lights and stained carpets, places where no one asked questions as long as you paid in cash. I stacked shelves at night, hauled bricks during the day, and learned to keep my head down. My hands blistered, healed, and blistered again. Pain became routine. Silence became safety. From the outside, it looked like I disappeared. Inside, I was surviving hour by hour. I told myself I didn't need them. Not my parents, not my brother, not Ryan, not anyone who'd watched me beg for a DNA test and turned away. I told myself distance was the cure. If I could just build enough space, the past would starve. It didn't. Years passed anyway. I learned trades the hard way. Watching, asking, failing, trying again. I saved every dollar. When a foreman noticed I worked longer without complaining, he taught me more. When a contractor needed someone reliable, my name came up. I built a small crew, then another. Eventually, I started my own business. On paper, I was a success. Inside, I carried the weight of 15 years of unanswered questions. When my father died, no one called me. I found out a week later while scrolling through social media after a 12-hour shift. A photo appeared on my feed. Black suits, bowed heads, a coffin draped in white flowers. My mother stood in the front row, my brother beside her. I stared at the image until my vision blurred. My father had been buried without me. I closed the app and went back to work the next day like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Clara thrived. My parents, drowning in guilt, paid for her education. She graduated. She married well. Her life unfolded like a catalog spread. Holiday photos, smiling captions, the family I'd been erased from. I didn't look often, but when I did, the resentment burned hot and sharp. Then, just weeks ago, everything cracked open. Her son fell gravely ill, the kind of illness that turns hospital hallways into holding chambers for hope. He needed a liver transplant. Clara wasn't a match. Desperate, my brother volunteered. Same blood type, he said. If the kid's really hers, if everything she said was true, I have to try. When the doctors ran the tests, confusion spread across their faces. Charts were checked. Blood was drawn again. Then the truth landed like a bomb no one could pretend not to hear. There was no biological connection. Not to my brother, not to me, not to anyone in our family. The child was never mine. He never could have been. For 15 years, I had carried the consequences of a lie that couldn't survive a single test. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Voicemails stacked up, messages flooded in. My mother cried through recordings I didn't listen to all the way through. My brother typed apologies that came 15 years too late. Even Ryan, after all this time, sent a message that began with, "I didn't know what to believe back then." I didn't answer. I had built my life brick by brick, scar by scar. I had survived without their belief, their money, their comfort. Now they wanted me back. But forgiveness and revenge didn't feel like opposites anymore. They felt like traps. That night, sleep wouldn't come. My phone vibrated so often it rattled against the nightstand like an alarm I refused to shut off. I lay there staring at the ceiling, memories crashing in waves, my father's eyes burning with judgment, my mother's voice breaking with condemnation, Clara's trembling hands, and carefully crafted tears. I was 19 when my future was taken from me. Now I was 34, standing in a strange place between vindication and exhaustion. I had thought the truth would set me free. Instead, it cracked the door open to everything I'd buried, and I didn't know yet what would step through. It had been exactly 1 day since the truth detonated my family's carefully maintained illusion. I woke up to sunlight slicing through the blinds, painting sharp lines across the wall. For a moment, I forgot where I was, forgot the messages, the voicemails, the years. Then my phone buzzed again on the nightstand, and my chest tightened. I didn't pick it up. I padded barefoot down the hallway, coffee forgotten on the counter, and pulled back the curtain just enough to look outside. That's when I froze. A familiar, rusted pickup truck was parked at the curb, the same one my brother had driven in high school. Time had dulled the paint, but I would have recognized it anywhere. My mother stood beside it, arms wrapped tightly around herself as if she were bracing against something colder than the morning air. Her shoulders slumped. She looked smaller. "Christina," she called, her voice thin but desperate. "Please, honey, just open the door." My brother stepped forward, hands raised as if I might run. "You don't have to say anything," he added quickly. "Just give us a few minutes, that's all we're asking." I stayed perfectly still in the hallway, my fingers hovering inches from the door handle. For one dangerous second, I wanted to open it. I imagined my mother's arms around me, the way she used to hold me when I was a child, before words like disgusting ever crossed her lips. I imagined the weight of 15 years lifting, just a little. Then the memory crashed in, my father's voice sharp and final. "Pack your things." Clara's sobs, Ryan's disgusted stare. I stepped back. "I can't," I whispered to the empty hallway. Outside, my mother tried again, her voice breaking. "It wasn't your fault. We know that now. Please don't shut us out." There was a soft knock, not angry, not demanding, just tired. "Christina," my brother said quietly, "please, don't let this be how it ends." I didn't move. Eventually, I heard my mother crying. I heard shuffling feet. The truck door slammed. The engine roared to life and faded down the street. Only then did I exhale, and what came out of me tasted bitter, not relieved. I told myself that was the end of it. I was wrong. Later that day, I was on site, sleeves rolled up, dust clinging to my skin as sunlight bounced off steel beams. The noise of drills and hammers filled the air. Work had always been my refuge. It demanded presence, strength, focus. Then everything went quiet. "Christina." I turned. My brother stood at the edge of the site, looking out of place in clean jeans and regret. Every worker had stopped. Metal clanged once, then fell silent. All eyes were on us. "I know you don't want me here," he said carefully, stepping forward, "but I had to come. I had to say this to your face." "You shouldn't be here," I replied, my voice low and steady, too steady. "We were wrong," he said, voice cracking. "All of us. I was wrong. I should have fought for you. I should have believed you when you begged for that test." My jaw clenched. "I didn't," he continued, tears shining in his eyes, "and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Heat rushed through me. Anger, humiliation, grief tangled so tightly I could barely breathe. I turned away and walked toward the half-built structure. "Christina, don't do this," he called after me. "Just one conversation, that's all I'm asking." I stopped and turned back. "One conversation," I said, my voice cutting like glass. "You had 15 years. 15 years while I slept in motels and worked myself bloody just to survive. You could have asked for one conversation back then. You didn't. His mouth opened, but no words came. I walked away. That night, the family tide shifted. Clara's name, once spoken with admiration, was dragged through whispers filled with venom. The same relatives who had praised her courage now called her a liar, a thief who had drained their money while I struggled to eat. But it didn't bring me peace. Her son worsened in the hospital. Her husband moved out, unwilling to stay married to a lie. And despite everything she had done to me, I couldn't harden myself against the child caught in the wreckage. Then came the message that changed everything. An email from my uncle. Your father left you something. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding. After 15 years of silence, the past wasn't done with me yet. I didn't answer my uncle's email right away. I sat there staring at the screen, the words your father left you something looping in my head like a cruel joke. The man who had thrown me out. The man who had looked at me like I was already dead. What could he possibly have left behind for me, besides regret? But curiosity is a quiet, persistent thing. 2 days later, I packed a bag and drove back toward the town I had sworn never to return to. Crossing the state line felt like stepping into an old photograph, washed out, overexposed, frozen in time. The same faded storefronts, the same cracked sidewalks, the rusted water tower still looming over everything like a watchful eye that had seen too much and said nothing. My phone buzzed nonstop in the passenger seat. Mom, please pick up. My brother. Just let us explain. I didn't touch it. I drove past the cafe where Clara used to laugh with her friends while I walked by pretending not to hear. The neon sign still flickered in the window, humming softly as dusk settled in. Christina Treadway? I turned. 2 men stood a few feet away, older now, heavier, but unmistakable. Tom and Caleb, former friends, former teammates, boys who had sworn loyalty under Friday night lights and vanished the moment things got uncomfortable. Wow, Tom said, rubbing the back of his neck. I can't believe it's really you. Caleb shifted awkwardly. We heard you left town for good. I tried, I replied. Their apologies came out clumsy and late. They said they'd had doubts, said it hadn't felt right, said they hadn't wanted to get involved. I nodded, offered a tight smile, and walked away. Their lives, weddings, kids, normalcy, gleamed like something from another universe. I didn't envy them. I just felt removed. That evening, I met my uncle at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. He looked older than I remembered, thinner, like grief had hollowed him out from the inside. Christina, he said softly, gripping my hands, I'm glad you came. I wasn't sure you would. Why now? I asked. After everything? He swallowed hard. Because someone needs to tell you the truth about your father. My chest tightened. He threw me out. Yes, my uncle said quietly, and he failed you. But in his later years, it destroyed him. I shook my head. He never believed me. He believed you more than you know, he said. He searched for you, hired a private investigator, bought a plane ticket. He was going to come to see you, to beg your forgiveness. The words stole the air from my lungs. He died days before the flight. I covered my mouth as tears spilled over. For 15 years, I'd convinced myself my father died hating me. Now I was being told he died wanting me back, still believing I was guilty, but loving me anyway. At the lawyer's office, the truth settled in deeper. A bank account, $300,000, and a deed to the lake house, the one from my childhood, the place where I used to run barefoot across the grass while my father laughed on the dock. He had left me a future. That night, I sat alone by the water, staring at my reflection and wondering if forgiveness and justice could exist in the same heart. Because for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't sure what I wanted. And then my cousin's husband found me. He sat beside me and said the words that changed everything. You can't let her walk away from this. And suddenly distance wasn't enough anymore. Sleep abandoned me that night at the lake house. The ceiling fan clicked softly above my bed, each turn sounding like a ticking clock I couldn't shut off. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face, not the angry man who told me to leave, but the older version my uncle described, worn down by regret, haunted, wanting me back. He died believing I was guilty. That truth hurt more than the lie itself. By morning, another truth had clawed its way to the surface, one I couldn't ignore anymore. The storm broke the next afternoon. A message came from an old classmate I hadn't spoken to since I was 19. Christina, you need to know this. She tested 7 men. 7. They finally found the real father. It's Coach Halverson. I stared at my phone, my hands going numb. Coach Halverson, our high school gym teacher, The man who'd barked orders at us during laps, who'd smiled politely when I struggled with pull-ups, who lived on the edge of town in that sagging house with peeling paint. Clara had looked me in the eyes, trembling and crying, and destroyed my life, while knowing exactly who the real father was. Rage hit me like ice water. Not loud, not explosive, cold and suffocating. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office that smelled like dust and old leather. Richard Crowley listened without interrupting as I told him everything. The accusation, the exile, the years lost to survival. When I finished, he leaned back slowly. "You have a case," he said. "Defamation, emotional damages, lost education, lost income, 15 years of harm." I didn't hesitate. "Let's do it." The lawsuit cracked the town wide open. Then I told my story publicly. I wrote everything. The lie, the silence, the truth revealed by a single test that should have been done 15 years earlier. I hit publish just before midnight. By morning, my phone was unusable. Apologies, confessions, rage on my behalf. People who'd once crossed the street to avoid me were suddenly demanding answers from Clara. Even my brother commented publicly, admitting he'd failed me. It didn't bring relief, but it brought momentum. The trial lasted 2 weeks. 2 weeks of my life being dissected in legal terms. 2 weeks of watching Clara avoid my eyes as her story collapsed under evidence she couldn't outrun. When the verdict came, the courtroom went silent. "Judgment in favor of the plaintiff," the judge said. "Damages awarded, $1.5 million. I didn't cry. I just breathed. Then the judge added, "The defendant will issue a public apology." Clara stood, shaking, and read words that sounded thin and hollow in her mouth. Her husband had already left the room. Outside the courthouse, my mother and brother waited. They tried to speak. I stopped them. "You threw me out," I said calmly. "At 19. You didn't just doubt me, you erased me." My mother sobbed. My brother apologized again. I nodded once. "You're 15 years too late." I walked away. Clara's life unraveled quickly after that. Divorce, custody loss, public disgrace. Her son recovered, and I visited him once. He was innocent. That mattered. As for me, I moved my business back home, expanded, thrived. The money mattered less than the freedom. Therapy helped me untangle the anger I'd been carrying like armor. My family still calls. Sometimes I answer. Sometimes I don't. I take it slow, on my terms. For the first time since I was 19, I'm not defined by a lie. I'm Christina Treadway, and this finally is my life.